Sweet Josiah and Pisco, who are my boys that I love and are my boys, decided to do an impromptu Twitter Spaces a couple of nights ago. It was more the same debate that we've been having this last week that stretched out quite a bit about what is the role of DSA within the Democratic Party, whether or not the red carpet should be rolled out for them, whether or not they should be treated as an adversary, and I decided to join that conversation. It exploded. It turned into a screaming match. But I will say, and I do want to stress this, I compartmentalize with my friends. So we can scream at each other. We can have fierce disagreements with each other, but they are my friends. My chat thinks I'm memeing when I say that. We are friends. I have strong disagreements with my friends, and we hash it out publicly and scream at each other. But they are my pals. Destiny joined for the last hour, and it just exploded even more. I don't know what else to say. My name is Hutch. I make videos, put them on the internet. If you guys enjoy the video, click like. If you guys like the channel, click subscribe. Maybe hit the bell notification. There's a whole backstory here. I think maybe one of the reasons why I get so frustrated and heated during these conversations is because I feel like I was at where Josiah and Pisco are at now. I feel like I was at that level in 2018, 2019, 2020. I was in the same boat. I firmly believed in my bones that we could have a positive, productive, helpful relationship with the online left. I had good relationships with like everybody in that space. And then I watched it slowly over time. I just started to notice more and more and more the framing. And then once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. You know, I think part of me didn't want to see it when I was trying to forge those relationships and when I was trying to insist that there could be like a beneficial like a mutually beneficial relationship. I think there was a part of me that just didn't want to see the framing, their entire framing. And then once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I saw it everywhere. I was like, holy shit. I don't think these people are on the same team. It was kind of awkward. Really, truly it was. It was kind of awkward. It was like 6 to 12 months of kind of awkwardly sort of questioning my whole framing, you know? I felt vulnerable and insecure. I was like, because I was doubting, you know, all this thing that I had been working towards. So maybe that's why I get like as charged up as I do, because like that's been my experience, you know. Hopefully we won't have to wait that long, you know, like hopefully in 2.5 years a Democrat will be, you know, sworn into the presidency, and then we can double back and we don't even need to double back at that point. You know, just watch what they do. Okay, watch what they do. If Kamala runs and she wins the nomination, she wins the election, just it's so predictable what they're going to do in that spot. Whether intentional or not, they're going to run 24/7 constant anti-Kamala or anti-Newsom or anti-whoever propaganda. They're going to do it. They're going to do the same thing. It's going to be dialed up even more than it was during Biden's, because they're getting worse year over year over year. They're getting worse. They're going to torch the Democratic nominee. They're going to torch the next Democratic president. You can take that to the bank. Okay.
This is not a critique that's purely tanky. The establishment has failed its voters. Hutch, are you there?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me now?
I almost can. Happy birthday, buddy.
I'm so tired that I almost was just like right now. I was like, yeah, I'm here. I got so close. Yeah, buddy, I'm here. So food hungover I am. God, horrible decisions last night. Why did I do that? Why did I eat the whole box of cookies, man? Why the did I do that, you guys? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, happy birthday, bro.
Dude, this
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. Here's what I want to jump in to ask Josiah and Pisco. I don't hear you guys recognize the fact that, like, I don't know how to reconcile your advice to the Democratic Party with the idea that Joe Biden was by far the most aggressive and progressive president of my lifetime.
What did there reconcile there?
He used. I'm saying he did the things that you guys are saying the Democratic Party should do. And I feel like when you guys use this language, it's not like there's no room for improvement, but like I feel like when you guys use this language, you give credence to this idea that the Democratic Party is like this amalgamation, this like hive mind that can choose to do more, but they're just not. And you're not reckoning with like just the constraints that Biden had, for example, but he had an entire alternative lefty media machine spinning 24/7, running oppositional adversarial coverage of his presidency, despite the fact that he was like, if you would have told me that he was going to be president 20 years from when I was like 19 years old, I wouldn't have believed you with all the stuff that he did. And yet when you go into those spaces, he's regarded as just like a light Republican.
Yeah, there's no inconsistency in our view there. I mean, do you hear us defending people who malign Biden? We don't do that. I don't see the contradiction. I mean, I supported Biden. I thought he was the best president of my lifetime. And when people give bad critiques, that's bad. But what am I supposed to do about it? Like, I'll criticize the people who do that. I can't shut them up. I can't kill them. What is the thing that's contradictory?
But I think that you view them as more allies than not. You know, like I think you view that space as more allied than. I'm not talking about Hassan specifically. I'm talking about the whole space. Everyone in that space.
When you say more ally than do you just mean like more ally than MAGA? More ally than what? More? What's the reference point?
I mean literally more allied than not. Like I see them as working straight up against the Democratic Party and essentially like for the Republican Party. And I think you guys see them as like imperfect allies. And I just don't understand how you can have that perspective given their rhetoric. They're so hostile. The way they spoke about Kamala Harris, you know, you can say that, you know, Majority Report and Emma Vigeland did the bare minimum of saying, you know, like if I was in a swing state, I would vote for her. But what does that matter if you've spent months accusing her of like literally supporting genocide?
So I understand ally and enemy to be with respect to goals, right? And people are allies with respect to some goals and enemies with respect to other goals. So with respect to electing Joe Biden, many of these people were not allies. But like, in what sense are they an ally is what matters. So no, they're not an all-purpose ally, such that we share the same political goal, and certainly in long-term ideological goals, I'm sure there's vast differences.
I guess my point that I failed to articulate last night is I don't consider you, if you're running programming that is 95% denigrating the candidate, in the case of Kamala, accusing her either tacitly or explicitly of supporting literal, but then 5% of the time you say, I'm going to vote for her because I live in a swing state, or I'm going to plug my nose and then vote for her. I don't consider that advocacy for the candidate. I consider that a hostile position towards the candidate. I think you're working against the candidate, even if you add your little disclaimer that you plan on voting for them. You're still working against the candidate in that spot.
We're talking about how to actualize this observation and what to do. What is the prescription? I think that these people are allies insofar as their votes matter in the ultimate determination. Like when these people, I mean like Mamdani, AOC, I mean the actual politicians, Chevalier, they're allies with respect to the goal of taking the House. They're allies with respect to gaining political power. That's the respect in which they're allies.
Well, I mean, to me, that's a little debatable. I mean, they seem to be picking candidates that are not of the best quality.
That's consistent with what I just said. It's consistent with what I just said, that they are not picking the best, quality candidates, and that for the purpose of winning over the House, these candidates are allies with respect to that goal. And I don't really see a contradiction there. Now, what people want to do is say, well, they're not general purpose allies. They're not general purpose friends. And that's just going to be like, okay, fine, I grant that. Who gives a yeah, I'll grant that they have this like backwards ideology. Hasan bad. What is the actualization?
Leave them out of it entirely. It's that entire space.
Okay, so who is
everybody?
That entire space?
Mehdi Hasan, Crystal Ball, Kyle Kulinski.
No, you're no.
Like all of them.
True. No, I'll die on the hill of Mehdi. Mehdi, even after what was going on in 2024, was actively.
I'll grant you. He's the least problematic of that bunch, but he still indulges the same kind of counterproductive rhetoric.
But I just don't understand this form of analysis.
Counterproductive rhetoric. Like, give me an example of something that Mehdi does.
I got to do a little audit this week. of Mehdi Hasan. I didn't have any examples to bring up on the fly. And it is true, I'll just reaffirm, it is true that he's not as belligerently hostile towards the Democratic Party as everybody else in that space, but to me, he still gives oxygen to the populist mind rot. But I'd have to like sit down and do like a proper audit of his content, you know, like listen to a bunch of videos from that week. And actually, yeah, where's the Hasan interview? Where the is that? He interviewed Hasan. I think it went up like last Wednesday or something, didn't it? Where's the link to that?
That you view as counterproductive.
He gives oxygen to the populace and the populist rhetoric. I mean, if I could browse through his Twitter feed. I'm sure it wouldn't take me too long to find. Again, I'll grant you, like he's the least problematic, and I do respect him as a journalist quite a bit. He's like literally the best in the game. And so
yeah, well, it's not even.
What's wrong with saying, for example?
This is just we're destined. Well, let me ask you this: when you say he's the least objectionable, because you said that they're enemies of the Democratic Party, do you regard Mehdi Hasan as an ally of the Republican Party and an enemy of the Democratic Party?
Listen, I will grant you. Like I think with him, it's generally a mixed bag, like a genuinely a mixed bag. I have mixed feelings about it.
What does an unmixed bag look like? Besides me, obviously.
Yeah. What is an unmixed bag?
Yeah. What is an
unalloyed friend.
Everyone you just mentioned except Mehdi, like Majority Report, Crystal Ball.
No.
They endorse, like Majority Report endorsed Kamala. That's not enough. Right?
Hang on a second. Majority Report is like
Majority Report is so bad these days, so bad. Like they've gone completely off the rails. It's full-throated hostility and belligerence towards the Democratic Party every day.
Who would say that?
That's what they would say.
Okay.
That's what they would say.
Who would say that? Who would say the Republican Party is marginally better than the Democratic Party?
Both Sam and Emma.
They would say that. Like Democrats are
yes, they
bad.
would. Absolutely, they would.
Okay, but let's say we grant it. That means now I doubt it. I'm going to be honest with you. I doubt it. I doubt that if I asked them that they would say the Democratic Party is marginally better. But maybe they would. Let me grant it. What is the thing that's like the I don't know, the denominator here? What are we calculating? What is the thing that we're comparing? What is the thing that we're like blinded by, that we're doing that's horrible or bad, or that's not recognizing the true threat or enemy? I don't get the point of it. What's the so what?
I'm saying that I think both of you guys have blind spots to just how adversarial they really are. I think you both think that they're more natural allies than they really are. And I think you guys mistake belligerent, oftentimes completely false smears as accountability.
No, so I would say that somebody who says that the Democratic Party is preferable to the Republican Party and that you should vote for the Democrat over the Republican is somebody that I consider at a bare minimum an ally of circumstance. At a bare minimum, they are the Stalin to our FDR.
With respect to the goal of getting rid of Trump, right? An ally with respect to a goal, right? There's a goal with which we're an ally. And that's the way in which I'm understanding the term. And so with respect to that goal, Dick Cheney's an ally. With respect to that goal, Liz Cheney's an ally. So it just depends on what goal you're talking about to whether I consider them an ally.
Whereas you, Hutch, would have told Stalin to off during the Second World War because because he wasn't sufficiently friendly to Western democracies. For me, it's not about forming close friendships. It's about recognizing that the Republican Party is worse, and that
this was a good metaphor from Josiah, but just not in the way that he thinks. Because yes, we allied ourselves with Russia in the fight against the, but we were eternally suspicious of them. FDR hated Stalin. Truman, both presidents understood that as soon as Hitler was dead, it was going to pop up with Russia. We didn't regard them as actual long-term allies. We didn't delude ourselves into thinking that we were actually friendly nations.
But I can't go around and make it my life's mission, nor will I try to just be on their ass every time they offer a criticism of the Democratic Party that I disagree with. I'm staying focused on Trump. If I look back and I'm like, okay, Sam, they should still vote for Democrats, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Check, box checked, and then I move on. That is how I look at them. What's wrong with that?
Like, a criticism is something like, you could try to make the argument. Obviously, I disagree. We've argued about this 1,000 times, but you could try to make the argument that, for example, like Biden didn't negotiate well enough to get more of the provisions of Build Back Better or whatever. Okay, you can have a good faith disagreement of that, and you can make it that would be like a criticism. When you paint the entire Democratic Party as though they are like literal warmongers who straight up support that we are beyond criticism at that point. That is like, you are speaking about someone as though
I don't understand what that means. We're beyond criticism. What do you mean beyond? What makes it beyond criticism?
The Democratic Party with Hitler.
If I like here, I don't know why this needs to be explained. Pisco, who is my boy, that I love and is my boy. But like, if I walked up to you and I said, you know what, I don't know if that shirt goes with those pants. That's a criticism. I don't know if you're. I don't know if you're washing that correctly. I don't know if you're using the right cleaning solution with that thing. I think that needs a special cleaning solution. That's a criticism. If I walk up to you and I say, you support the destruction of an entire people, that's a condemnation. That's like a character assassination that goes so far beyond just like normal, acceptable criticism of politicians.
Pisco, it's not a light criticism.
So let's be clear about something, right? Do you agree 80-20 issue that there was a Gaza among Democrats?
I agree that the
80-20 issue.
What are you asking me? That the poll
among Democrats, is it an 80-20 issue that there's Gaza?
Don't do this.
That's my question. You can answer it or not.
Do you think the Democratic Party are warmongering supporters?
No.
Okay, then why are you fighting me on this?
No.
Why do you think the polling is 80-20? Do you think it's because of this?
So I'm asking the question. So do you agree it's an 80-20 issue that Gaza, that Israel committed against the Palestinians in Gaza?
I agree.
You agree?
The polling shows, sure, about the perception among Democratic Party voters, but you're ignoring the fact. Well, why do you think that perception exists, Pisco? Do you think the fact that entire media ecosystem runs 24/7 programming accusing the Democratic Party?
Yes, I'm sure. I have no doubt that the commentary has played an active role. So are the images and videos and footage. So is the reporting.
So are the facts
on the ground. So is the consensus of scholars.
If there's all the facts and the reporting, people would care about Ukraine just as much because there's just as much going on there.
I don't actually know the percentage of support Ukraine versus support Palestine. I haven't seen the comparison there, but yeah, the Democrats do care, and consistently more than Republicans, regarding Ukraine. And you would never say, would you, that someone who takes a stance against, let's say for example, there's a Democrat who is not willing to give aid to Ukraine, as there are, by the way, you have Rashida Tlaib, etc., that if there were a commentariat class that was dedicated to shitting on Rashida Tlaib and any other Democrat doesn't vote for Ukraine, that somehow they wouldn't be allies with respect to the goal of ousting MAGA. They're just different things, right? They're not an ally with respect to the goal of Ukraine emancipation and ending the Ukraine. They are an ally with respect to something else.
Whatever issues that I have with Biden with respect to his public posture towards Israel, and I don't think it was like infallible. I do think it was inappropriately cozy, just optically. I think he could have been firmer in public. But whatever issues you have with him, the difficult conversation to have, the nuanced conversation to have, is that the outcome in Gaza likely would have been worse had Joe Biden and that administration alienated Israel. The Biden administration would have surrendered all the influence that they had, which led to good outcomes. If you read Bob Woodward's book, War, half the book is about Israel-Palestine. And I was surprised to learn in that book that the Biden administration is literally the reason humanitarian aid was allowed into Gaza in the first place. The Biden administration went to Israel and they were like, what's your plan for humanitarian aid? And Israel was like, what do you mean? Why would we give aid to our enemies? And then the administration pushed them. And then they allowed aid into the region. There was a moment in time when I think it was like 1.5 Palestinians were packed so densely in the Rafah region of Gaza. And Israel at the time was saying, you know, we've eliminated 17 out of the 21 Hamas cells. The final cells are hunkered down in Rafah, and we're going to go in there and finish the job. And they were like, again, like 1.5 million people just packed so densely in that region. And Biden successfully, and the administration, successfully convinced Israel to hold off on that offensive for 3 weeks while they evacuated. They evacuated over 1 million people. And they estimated that that saved tens of thousands of lives. Okay. You cannot reconcile these things with the notion that Biden literally supported it. But if you have that conversation and you make those points, the people on the other side of that argument, the people that are screaming at Biden that he supported it, they're going to call you an apologist. They're just going to start screaming over and over and over. That's how those conversations go. They just smear you. They just call you a thirsty, you know, racist supporter. They just blow up the conversation. And that's like a hard thing to navigate. And so I think a lot of people just like, they got tired of even like trying to engage in the nuance. And so they just grant all these things from the left flank. And I think it's counterproductive.
Is Biden an ally for Kamala Harris?
What question? Yes, of course. Yes,
because he did a bad job. If he lost his mind, he's not an ally.
If you're judging just based on the instrumental effect of a group of people or particular individuals, whether or not they're allies, that is to say their net effect, then you're going to drag in, like maybe David Plouffe gets dragged in. Maybe Kamala Harris herself is not an ally. This notion of
so like Hutch. I don't know if you'd use this word. I think I certainly believe it applies. I don't know if this would be the word that you would instantly ascribe to them, though. Somebody who votes for Democrats, a Democratic voter, just a random person who votes for the Democratic Party, do you consider them an ally?
That's like, no.
I'm just asking. Just answer the question. You asked. No, we answer your questions.
No. Okay. I need more than that, because otherwise Nick Fuentes would be an ally. Is that your standard?
With respect to a particular goal, if it's the case, so you gave a test for what would count as an ally, someone who helps you achieve the result. If it were the case that Nick Fuentes' Groyper movement does help Democrats get elected in 2026 by your own metric, Hutch, let me finish it. By your own metric, you'd be an ally, yes or no?
It's about being an ally to the cause, not one election or another election.
So narrowly thinking.
How would you just regard a random American who votes for Democrats? What would you regard them? What term would you use to describe them? I would argue your vote is the single most important thing you can do in a democracy. It's not the only thing you can do in terms of advocacy and assistance and allyship, but it's the most important thing and probably the most necessary thing, especially for an eligible voter. How would you regard a Democratic voter?
But Josiah, the concept of a coalition transcends one single election or the other. This is
how would you regard a Democratic voter? How would you regard a Democratic voter?
It depends on it depends on the context, Josiah, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Hang on. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
there's multiple, it's multivariate. You're saying it's
something
you are 7 steps ahead, Hutch, but in the wrong direction. So instead of just trying to avoid what you think is a gotcha, just answer the question.
But I can't get you to just accept the understood definition of a coalition. You're trying to restrict the idea of is someone an ally about whether or not they
I'm not trying to restrict anything. I'm not, because again, you expect people to answer your questions, but you don't answer mine. So answer my question. What do you regard a Democratic voter? What is the word you would use? A person who votes for the Democrats.
I would call them a Democratic voter, Josiah.
That's it.
Not enough to know that they're an ally. In other words,
no, not enough to know. Obviously not. No.
Okay. So my point is that the thing I was getting to that has absolutely nothing to do with what you were talking about was this. If you look at the polls, a majority of Democrats, a majority of Democratic supporters still voted for Kamala Harris, right? But also, if you look at those same polls, a majority of Democrats regard what's going on in Gaza as and if you look at some polling questions, a majority of Democrats believe that the U.S. is enabling Israel's actions in Gaza. My point is, it follows that there are millions of people in this country who saw what was going on in Gaza, who understood that the Biden-Harris administration, at least by their understanding, was enabling it. And they voted for them anyway.
How many people couldn't stomach it?
So wait a minute. So my point is, when you say, if you regard the Democrats as enabling it, you are not an ally. You are not part of the coalition. By definition, that's just not true, because there are people who believe. You did say that.
No, Josiah, we're having a conversation about like media figures, people with platforms and digital bullhorns that run programming 7 days a week.
Why would they
learn their shit about all this?
Why would that be different for them?
Why is it different
let's
for
assume that
someone
they're
with a massive platform?
So if they're just giving voice to a position that commands majorities among Democratic faithful, why would you treat them differently in terms of good faith, bad faith, or allyship? If they're giving voice to these commonly held critiques.
I don't think this is a serious question. I don't
think you have a serious.
What about it is not serious?
I don't think you have a serious
this idea.
answer.
Come on, you guys are smarter than this idea that we would regard like the median voter in the same way, in the same conversation about like culpability in no,
an allyship. We're not. I don't want to change the metric. The metric is coalition. That's their allyship.
You're too smart to believe that somebody in a position of influence who believes and says that the Democrats or the Biden-Harris administration enabled it means that they're not an ally. I think you're too smart to believe that, because that's a genuinely stupid thing to say.
I think you're too smart to not understand that these people have had the knives out for the Democratic Party for years. They have regarded.
Is it your position? Is it your position that a person of influence?
Hang on. They have regarded the Democratic Party as a fundamentally evil institution for years. Let's just not even talk about Gaza. Would you disagree with the fact that the vast majority of those people genuinely espouse the belief and promulgate the belief that the Democratic Party literally does not give a single about voters, doesn't want to improve their lives, is completely beholden to corporate interest and APAC money? Like,
let's name names: Hassan, Piker, Cenk, Breaking Points, Kyle Kulinski.
It's literally all of them. Every single one of them. Every single one of them.
Piker, yes. Cenk, yes.
All of them.
Mehdi Hasan, no. Sam Cedar, no. I would say that he thinks that the Democratic Party is too beholden to corporate interests and doesn't care enough about the base.
I don't think you watch enough Majority Report. With peace and love, I don't think you watch enough. I don't know.
Okay, so I just tried to answer your question. I tried to even go more specific with specific names. So now here's my question: Is it your position? Is it? Yes, I do. Is it? I do. Like not every day.
He doesn't have time. He's making 30 videos a day. He can't watch every single.
I respect the hustle. I'm just saying, I do. I watch them very regularly, and they have been saying this for years. This is just a firmly established narrative that the Democratic Party is completely beholden to corporations. They do not give about a single about the voters. Like the ACA was just only existed to like line the pockets of insurance executives. They've been saying this for years.
You're being reductive, because they also give the Democratic Party flowers on, like President Biden's progressive policy. Sam Cedar fought on that. His labor, Department of Labor.
Do you think they gave him more flowers or more condemnations?
Probably more condemnations, because he still wasn't
what the fuck are we talking about?
Well, we're using your criteria. I thought
Usurp. Are you telling me this is where you are doomed for dissatisfaction? If they don't believe that Joe Biden is enough, they are not going to praise him more than they criticize him. You can't police. What you want is for them to get rock hard at the thought of Joe Biden. That's not going to happen.
That's what you think I'm saying?
Yes. When you say, oh my God, how can they bitch more about Biden than give him flowers? Maybe it's because they think that for all of Biden's successes relative to other Democratic presidents, he is still woefully inadequate in their eyes. I can't change that. You can't change that. What you should care about is whether or not they give him credit for his successes. That's a reasonable demand to make.
All the successes of the most successful left-leaning politician and president in American history, the best president.
He's not the most left-leaning.
Good enough.
No, he's not the most successful president in American history, and he's not the most successful left-leaning president in American history.
I apologize. Our lifetimes.
Yeah, I'd grant that, but like, but who can? That's all
yes,
consistent.
I agree with that. I agree with that too.
Yeah,
and they would also agree that Biden was the most progressive president in their lifetimes too.
No, but they
what
would
if
add a
that's
caveat.
not enough?
Josiah, they would add a caveat and be like, "That's a really low bar," you know.
What if it is to them? What if it is? What if it is? What if it is?
You're laundering.
What if it is?
You're laundering.
What if it is?
You are.
What if it
What
is?
does that mean, laundering the framing? What do you mean by that?
What if it is? What if it is to them, Hutch?
I love you.
What if it is?
Sweet child, I love you. You are laundering their framing by now by conflating.
Oh my God, dude, you're out of your. I know you're just so upset.
No, but you
that
just
Sam is not a liberal the way you are, the way that I am, the way that Pisco is. That is what you're upset about. You're laundering their framing.
No, that's
you're
not
laundering their framing by
Josiah.
saying that they have higher standards for a Democratic president on the whole than we do. They have, I would argue, in many ways, unrealistic standards.
There is a difference.
I would agree with that.
There's a difference between saying that you weren't a fan of this or that Biden policy. Okay, that's a critique. That's what you're conflating.
That's very generous of you. That's very generous of you.
That's what you're.
But what they do is beyond criticism. I just don't understand that it's beyond criticism.
It's beyond criticism because they're making a holistic assessment of the entire institution and all of the politicians that exist in that institution. They're not saying we wish the Democrats would do more. They're saying
There's criticism and then there's judgment. How many of you guys are in a relationship, you know, and you tell your partner, hey, I didn't really like that thing that you did. Or, hey, I think you could have done this thing a little differently. That's criticism. Okay. That's criticism. If you go to your partner and you say, I think you're evil. I think you're evil. I think you're fundamentally evil. That's a judgment. That's a holistic condemnation. That is not the same thing as a criticism. I hate that this rhetoric from them gets reduced to criticism. Well, you know, libs don't like him because they criticize the Democratic Party. What? That's not what I said. I don't give a if you criticize the Democratic Party, as long as it's like a good faith criticism. But saying that the Democratic Party are supporting corporate stooges who do not give a about voters, that is a judgment.
the Democrats are profoundly corrupt and profoundly evil. That's what they're saying. They're saying they do not give a.
I've never heard say. Listen, you want to provide a timestamp link sometime with all the.
I
you
would
do
be
the majority report. Send it to
glad
me.
to do
You
that.
send it to me.
But maybe they
I will
do.
dedicate tomorrow's show to scrubbing through all of these creators' videos. I'm just gonna make random videos on their feeds.
No, dude,
I don't think we're going to have time to do that today. But I promise you that over the next few days, I am going to audit all of their content. I'm going to not let you guys distract me. I'm going to audit all of their channels. I'm just going to click on random videos, and then I'm going to compile a highlight reel to show Sweet Josiah how much these people actually hate the Democratic Party.
I gave you a name, Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar. I want you to give me a time. I want you to give me a time-stamped link of Sam Cedar saying that the Democratic Party is evil.
I will do that. I will do that. I will do
like if I go to Majority Report's page right now and just click on the first video that I see Sam in the thumbnail of, I think there's very decent odds at some point in that video he's going to express some kind of sentiment to suggest that the Democratic Party is evil and entirely beholden to corporate interests.
Like, he might not just say the words, they are evil.
Oh, okay. I see.
Bro,
right. Okay, there we go. There we go.
Is evil. You can characterize someone as evil without saying this person's evil. You understand that, right? Like,
right.
I don't dispute.
Okay, so if they do, what's the follow-on from that? I mean, then they're not, quote, not in the coalition, by which we mean what?
I think that, like, median Democratic politicians and people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and anyone that they deem the establishment are evil, okay?
That's circular. You're saying, okay, that's the criteria by which we know they're not in the coalition. And when we know they're not in the coalition, then what? What does it mean? What is this thing that we're examining? There's a huge conceptual issue.
Times though, Pisco.
But there's never a good response to it because it's just this ally, coalition. Are they a friend to the Democratic Party? Granted, they're not. So what? Then what needs to change?
We've been round and round on this. All I've said is that a simple acknowledgement that that's how they function, that that's how they behave. That would be a really good start. But I don't.
We have acknowledged, for example, let me give you some examples. So I think that since the 2024 election, Crystal Ball and Kyle Kulinski have come around and have said that they regret that they were sheepish and not endorsing it in 2024.
I don't know why they started roping Crystal into this, because I don't think that's true. I don't think Crystal came out and said, you know what? I should have been more on board with Kamala. I've never seen any clip of her saying that. Have you guys?
And by and large, their coverage of the MAGA, the MAGA government has been largely, hugely negative. And in that respect, we are like aligned on being against MAGA. Now, I don't forget the fact that they were sheepish / not endorsing in 2024, and we criticize that, and we talk about that.
Same shit about the Democratic Party right now, both of them, constantly. Do you guys watch a lot of Breaking Points?
That's compatible. That's compatible with them having changed their mind in terms of the lesser of two evils and what it makes sense to endorse in the future. That's all compatible with that.
I promise you, Kyle Kulinski is not going to endorse the 2028 nominee. I will bet you guys $100 each that he won't do it. I know he says he's going to do it, but it's going to be someone like Kamala and Gavin. And he's going to say no. He's going to say, I promise you, he's not going to do it. And I think you guys
I already have a $20 bet. I already have a $20 bet with Steven about Kyle endorsing Haley Stevens over Tom Rogers or Mike Rogers if
it's just do that. But I promise you, by the time we get around to 2028, he will find a reason to say
one election at a time. I'm in 2026. One election at a time. We'll keep monitoring.
That was bold. That was bold, I think, of Josiah to bet. Did he bet Destiny? He said Steven. To bet that Kyle Kulinski would endorse Haley Stevens? I don't know. Haley Stevens is like very, 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 very publicly, emphatically like pro-Israel, like a very, very strong supporter of Israel. There's no way that Kyle Kulinski. I don't know if she's going to win the primary. First of all, I think El Sayed is probably the favorite right now.
If that happens, Hutch, how will that change your mind if Josiah is right? Would you now consider them allies?
No, that's not. No. That's not. You need to. It's so much more than that.
So then, what is this test then? I mean, then what is the test calculating for? I should not have to
explain to you why someone is not an ally if they could describe you and your movement as profoundly, unequivocally evil. Why do I have to explain?
If that's just what it means to be an ally, okay. So if that's just what being an ally means, then fine. I guess that's what being an ally means. That if you believe that the Democratic Party is evil, you quote unquote are not an ally, but you could be an ally with respect to removing the Republican Party. And why isn't that like something that we should consider as opposed to this like general purpose ally ideological conformity? Like, okay, granted, they're not allies in the general sense. Who cares?
It's about whether or not you think that they're like a net positive.
I guess the point maybe that I failed to articulate last night. If you are a creator with a massive platform, and you are, on the center left to progressive left, liberal, like spectrum, and you are just as invested as taking power from MAGA as like I am, right? Then the risk that you run from sharing a friendly platform with the people that I'm talking about, treating them and speaking about them as though they are like on the same team and on the same page, then the risk is that you to use a word that's very cringe, but like you normalize those people in your spaces. And then if your audience starts to go into those spaces after you, who has, credibility in your audience, in their audience's minds, if you lend that credibility to people that are actively trying to undermine the Democratic Party and this entire movement at every turn, the risk of that, it should be self-evident. Like I shouldn't have to explain the risk of that, right? That's what I think is frustrating to me. And, that's another condescending thing. It's like, I think a lot of this stuff should just be like self-evidently obvious, but round and around we go on this fight. A net negative for the Democratic
Party. I suspect people like Breaking Points and Kyle Kulinski and Crystal Ball are, just by virtue of them castigating MAGA, are net beneficial to Democrat voters. That's an intuition. I can't prove it, but can you prove that they're a net?
I have the opposite intuition, and I can't prove it. There's literally no way to quantify this, but I have the opposite intuition. I think if all of them stopped their coverage tomorrow and just like stopped being voices on the internet, I think it would net Democrats votes. Literally, I think it maybe not inconsequentially. It might net us, like
5 to 10 congressional seats. But I can't, there's no way to, it's literally impossible to quantify that.
Negative? How do you prove that?
Listen, respectfully, I mean, we're both just opining here, right?
Yeah.
But like,
None of us can prove
respectfully,
any of this.
I just get the sense that you don't watch a lot of their content. I do. And I promise you, they go after Democrats like just as hard as they go after Republicans all the time.
They don't. And here's why, because both Crystal and Kyle will acknowledge that
they do. I promise you that. You know what? Let's just like go to Kyle Kulinski's page here. All right. Let's just pick a video. Let's, it is not going to take me very much time to Kyle Kulinski to find an example of what I'm talking about. Video on Haley Stevens 18 hours ago.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about what's going on in the Michigan U.S. Senate primary on the Democratic side. As you all know, it's Haley Stevens versus Abdul El-Sayed. Abdul El-Sayed is the left-leaning candidate who actually is representing the Democratic voting base and where they are on issues. Haley Stevens is basically an AstroTurf Diet MAGA Democrat. That's what she is. She's taken, I believe, the numbers $40 or $50 million from AIPAC for this campaign. Very disturbing stuff. I mean, honestly, that should...
there you go. But the first 20 seconds of the video, he calls a genuine contender for the Michigan Senate primary seat a diet MAGA, what did he say? Republican? I didn't even have to make it 20 seconds into the video, you guys. It was less than 20 seconds into the video before he's accusing her. Like, if I look up her page, look up her entire career, and look up her entire volume of work that she did in government, like what bills did she champion in the Congress, and what were her major accomplishments over the last couple of decades? What are the odds that I'm gonna find a track record from her that in any way helps MAGA or is right-wing aligned? By all accounts, this woman is a center-left Democrat politician who is firmly opposed to the Republican Party. And just this is just the casual language that they use. It goes so far beyond hyperbole. When you say that someone this prominent Democrat is essentially a Republican, what is, at that point, that's one of the worst things that you could say about a Democrat, right? They're essentially a Republican. What the does that even mean? What bills are you even referring to? What rhetoric from her, her stated goals and priorities? How does that align with MAGA? He does this shit constantly. This is just his standard operating framework, That's funny, man. I just clicked on one of the first Kyle Kulinski videos I saw, and in the first 20 seconds, he calls Haley Stevens a diet MAGA Republican. That's incredible. I didn't think it was only going to be in the first. I thought maybe it would take a few minutes to get there.
They may have done it in the past. They may yet do it in the future. But right now,
I don't think you watched. I don't think you watched their videos. I don't.
Okay. Well, I've heard them say. Maybe you haven't. Maybe those just happen to be. You watched them 24/7. Maybe you happen to miss the shit where they say, what Trump is doing is far worse than anything we've ever seen from Democrats.
Cares?
Okay. I don't give a shit that you don't care. What I said,
that doesn't make someone an ally.
Hutch, what I'm saying is, if they say between two options, one option is worse than the other, then by definition, they don't think the two options are equally good or equally bad. I win, you lose. That's my point, Hutch.
Not the definition of an ally.
Then what is the so what? Should I stop going on breaking points? Should I not interact with Kyle Kulinski? What is the so what of all this?
I'm going to say it again. Just Pisco, who is my boy and I love. Just a simple acknowledgement.
I love you too. I acknowledge that they shit on Dems.
Acknowledgement that they are not on the team, and they never have been, and they never will be, no matter how much lip.
They never will be. So Kinzinger, after supporting Trump, he can be on the team, but Crystal and Kyle can never be on the team. But then why did he say they will never be? Is
because
that just
it's a turn of phrase, bro. Jesus, the way humans speak to each other. Holy
shit. I mean, listen. If you make
I'm a chess player, it's about pattern recognition. Okay, I mean, I just look at the trend and I just kind of extrapolate from there. Okay.
Okay, so that's your prediction, and apparently, if you're shown wrong on Haley Stevens, that won't change your mind.
I didn't say he was wrong about Haley Stevens. I
No,
said he might do that.
if conditional on you being wrong that Kyle will endorse and this bet that Josiah has, if Josiah's right, that won't change your mind. So what would change your mind?
Kyle and Crystal have to like make some concessions right now because Donald Trump has been so cartoonishly, unfathomably bad.
What would change your mind?
They
Nothing.
have to take
Nothing.
that position.
They have to become as shills for the Democratic Party as I am.
Showing that they changed their behavior.
I didn't say that, Josiah. I didn't say they have to become shills. That's not what I said. Why are you bastardizing what I just said?
You're a bastard.
I need a clip from Will Smith from the movie Concussion. And he goes, tell the truth. Tell the truth. That's all I'm asking for. Just be honest in your coverage, you know? Don't smear the Democratic Party. Don't smear Democrats. Don't lie about them. Don't do like agitative propaganda and knowingly lie about them.
That's how I feel.
If you had been a part of Chorus, if Brian Tyler Cohen had approached you to be a part of it like they did with Pacman, they would have savaged you just the same, bro.
Yeah, we would have hit back. We would have hit back.
They would have thrown you under the bus immediately because they sense blood in the water. Do you even dispute that?
They probably would have criticized you back.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
It's very possible.
Yeah. No, I think it's likely, but
you're trying to tell me that these people are allies. And
no.
you're conceding that
Oh my God.
What you mean?
It was at this point in the conversation where my brain literally exploded and I died. What you're watching right now on the screen is a apparition. It's a ghost. It's an entity, a spiritual entity who has, you know, exited this earthly realm. When they conceded that point, when they said, you know, it's very likely that they would have thrown me under the bus and smeared me if I was a part of Chorus, I just about lost my mind internally. Because if you acknowledge that, and they would have, all the friendly text messages they probably had in private or whatever, like none of that would have mattered. They would have thrown them under the bus immediately if Josiah was a part of Chorus or Pisco was a part of Chorus. And it's just like, if you acknowledge that, then what the are we even talking about? Like what? Like how do you not take my position if you're acknowledging that?
So if what you mean by ally is like a friend, is that what you mean by ally? A friend?
I'm gonna KMS.
Was Stalin an ally? Was Stalin an ally during the Second World War?
I am actually gonna KMS.
No, if you
Stalin
have
an
this
ally during the Second World War.
Oh, so your birthday's over. You don't have to be nice anymore, Hutch.
Yeah, this is us being nice. Now we're gonna start being mean.
Nice.
Now we're gonna be mean. Can we just be honest? Like Hutch, if there is a lack of clarity on the concept that's being invoked and its implications, then it's just gonna keep raising itself. The fact that like ally, coalition, tent, all this stuff is like unconnected to particular prescriptions and unconnected to like some like through line here, that's gonna be a problem. And you being exasperated about it, like yeah, I am too because I don't know what you're talking about.
But to me. It just seems so crazy that I can get you guys to acknowledge that they would literally throw you under the bus and call you a apologist, paid propagandist if you were a part of Chorus, and I can't get you to like understand my perspective that maybe maybe we shouldn't be treating these people like friends, you know, like maybe we shouldn't be
like be polite to them, like acknowledge when they're right, like treating like a friend. There are many things that go into my perspective of treating like a friend. Like I have MAGA people who are friends, and it's not all connected to their politics. Treat as friend is something that I don't know. It's not intuitive to me that just because someone throws you under the.
But hang on, we got some wild clips coming out of this Fauci hearing.
Sell them all. Run for office, run for the United States Senate. Here I am sitting in front of you 6 years later saying, who the do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country. And if my Democrat colleagues are standing there defending you, I hope the voters of the United States of America watch the clips of every one of you doting on a guy who was more interested in being a celebrity than saving American people.
He said, who the do you think we got to watch the highlight reel of that tomorrow? Damn, he said the feed dropping F-bomb in Senate hearings, guys.
If you mean by ally a general purpose friend who doesn't go over in public opinion, then them not doing that, right? So like it just turns on what you mean when you use these terms like coalition, tent, and ally.
So for them to not be somebody that I would consider in the broadest possible sense an ally, even a situational ally, they would have to do like Kyle, when Kyle and Crystal were advocating for third-party candidates in 2024, they were not allies. They were active impediments. They were not as much impediments as, say, somebody, encouraging people to go vote for Donald Trump.
Here's a clip from Zateo from 5 days ago. I haven't watched this clip. Let's just see what we find in this clip.
If you had to pick between two for 2028, a Democrat, who would you pick between Gavin Newsom and Rahm Emanuel?
Oh, God. Oh, shoot me. Oh, I have no idea.
You have to pick one. That's the game.
You know what's crazy? Rahm Emanuel is better on foreign policy than Gavin Newsom.
He's been criticizing Israel recently. You buy that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy it.
But at least he's doing it.
His dad was in Irgun, I think, which is wild.
All right, so Rahm Emanuel, Gavin Newsom is Rahm.
I don't know, but because Gavin is an empty suit, so are we capable of pushing him? But he's also an empty suit.
He wore the Mao suit in his interview with Mehdi Hassan.
You are.
Yeah, I know. This is the
Rahm Emanuel or Gavin Newsom?
Oh, I don't know. Gavin Newsom, probably?
Gavin Newsom or Pete Buttigieg?
Pete Buttigieg. This game sucks.
Pete Buttigieg or Kamala Harris?
I don't know. Because I'm now thinking like who's more malleable? Who's more susceptible?
Whatever reasoning you have, I'm just asking you to give me
to influence. I don't know. I mean, Kamala Harris, I guess. She has more name recognition.
Kamala Harris or John Ossoff?
Oh, John Ossoff.
John Ossoff or J.B. Pritzker?
J.B. Pritzker.
Why?
I think J.B. Pritzker, despite being a billionaire, is, again,
he's like super economically populist
and more responsive. Whereas John Ossoff has a more interesting background and is like, I think, secretly closer to, my worldview than J.B. Pritzker is even.
Push Pritzker more.
But I think Pritzker has this ability to read the room, the left side of the room, whereas John Ossoff is always reading the right side of the room, if you know what I mean.
I do.
One is posturing to the left, the other is posturing to the right more than they should be.
You prefer the posturing of the billionaire to the left. J.B. Pritzker or Chris Van Hollen?
Chris Van Hollen.
Chris Van Hollen or Ro Khanna?
Ro Khanna.
Ro Khanna or AOC?
AOC. It's not even a question.
Okay. All right. Good for Mehdi Hassan for getting him to actually give committal answers there.
If it's conducive, let's say it's conducive for my end to spread my message on whatever Trump's doing, to go on these different platforms, why shouldn't I do it irrespective of the fact that there could be another kind of network that I appeal to if I could also do that one? Why not schedule in breaking points? I don't understand.
Maybe network is not the most precise word. I've never said or even thought that I don't think that you should go on their platforms. Like, there's an argument to make, the utilitarian benefit of going on different platforms, even with people that you like, who have views that you abhor. That's fine. I mean, actually the building out like a larger sort of like liberal, cinematic universe.
Hutch,
online.
I don't know what that means.
Maintain a healthy, appropriate level of skepticism. Always understand in the back of your mind that these will shiv you in the back at the first opportunity if they think it would advance their movement.
Hutch, building out the cinematic universe?
Wait, Hutch. I think I understand what Hutch is saying, but here's my question. What are Pisco and I doing that's not commensurate with that? Do we not interact with you? Do I not interact with you? Do I not interact with Soy Pill? Do I not interact with Pisco? Do I not interact with IRI?
No, you do.
Right.
I'm not saying you don't. You both do. You both do. But I'm just saying, like, why not? Why not restrict the party to just that?
How would we restrict it? The party is not. It's a decentralized thing. It's not like this centralized thing where we can kick them out of the party. By which we mean
I didn't mean the Democrat Party. Literal party. I don't mean literal.
So then I need to know what you mean when you say kick them out or draw a red line so that they're not part of it.
You can talk with them at the water cooler, but maybe don't invite them to the barbecue at your house on Sunday.
And what's the metaphorical barbecue here?
So none of them have been to my house. Number one. Number two, in all seriousness,
I'm going to KMS.
But my goal, or one of my goals,
I'm going to K my S.
That Donald Trump is the worst and that Democrats are better than Donald Trump and the Republicans. Now, I have other goals on top of that. I would like everybody to recognize, like my stock phrase is that the very worst Democrat is better than the very best Republican on their very best day. And so I would love if that were one of the pervasive attitudes. But to the extent that I'm trying to maximize and trying to expand the area of effect for as many audiences as possible, That is the outer perimeter. Is, do you recognize that Donald Trump is the worst? And do you recognize that Democrats are preferable to Trump and the Republicans? And if the answer is yes, then I'll with you to some extent, to one extent or another. And I will certainly use, like, even Fuentes. Like, would I go grab a drink with Fuentes? No, but I haven't gone and grabbed a drink with Kyle or Crystal either.
But he featured the Hunter Biden interview, and he praised what Fuentes said.
I spread coverage of the ongoing MAGA civil war and Nick Fuentes' conversation with Hunter, and Nick Fuentes calling for his.
But that's you doing your job as a good liberal of exploiting right-wing division. That's just tactically smart, right?
Groypers to go vote for Democrats to further spread the MAGA civil war and further, sow that discord. And also to say, like, hey, there are people who were once enthusiastic Trump supporters who are now admitting he's such a corrupt piece of shit that they would rather have the Democrats in power. And also Nick hates the Jews, right? So there are other reasons there too, right, that Nick is doing this. But where we are aligned is that he wants Democrats to.
Hutch, I think at this point you need to show them the clips you're talking about and point blank ask them what they think Kyle means when he says these things. I am going to audit these channels and create a compilation clip video of everything that I'm talking about. That shit is going to be 4.5 hours long, okay? We're going to do that, all right? Starting, well, I don't know when. I don't know. There's news popping off every day this week, so it's like, but I promise you we will do that. I have so much stamina. Okay, listen, I can do that.
Win the next election.
Would you consider Nick an ally, Josiah? See, that's what they want to ask you. They want to be like, you wouldn't call Nick an ally, would you? Because they're obviously focusing on the connotation of ally, meaning friend, right?
Sure.
But clearly when you say that he's an ally with respect to a goal, that you mean that and only that he will help with respect to that goal, and not the connotative thing, which is like be friendly to someone who's like abhorrent views.
Yeah, I've heard both of you guys clown on people like Cenk and Anna for entertaining the possibility of a kind of populist alliance with people like Tucker Carlson and even Candace Owens.
I can make, I'll address that.
I've heard you guys clown on that and call it naive.
No, because we're not, what they're proposing is something else. What they're proposing is something else. They're not proposing, first of all, this labeling thing, like using Nick and cynically to try to get his audience not to vote or whatever Josiah said. Josiah said something to Myron Gaines yesterday, which is like, he said that he wouldn't vote for a woman, and he's like, great, I mean, we'll take it. And then, he could cynically use it. What's being proposed by...
asshole, no.
Probably not the best phrasing.
Myron said he wouldn't vote for Trump again or the Republicans again. I said we'll take it to that.
No. He said he wouldn't vote for a woman, and you're like, we'll take it. Yeah, just check the tape on that.
You asshole. That's not what I said.
Okay,
no.
so
you brought up the Stalin example.
Wait, let me finish. You made a criticism. You're like, this is inconsistent with your position on the right-wing populist, left-wing populist unite theory.
I'm saying it's analogous.
I don't think it's analogous. I'm trying to break the analogy because I understand the point you're making. It's a good point. It's like, isn't this inconsistent? And I'm like, no, because first of all, there's some predictive aspect to what Cenk was doing, was saying you should expect Trump to be sort of caged in by the right-wing populist base. That's crucially what he had the debate with Crystal Ball about, where Crystal Ball, in my opinion, owned him, and he never he didn't look good in that exchange. And so there's one on the predictions about what Trump would do. That's different. And then two, in terms of the political future, Cenk actually wants some sort of formal coalition where Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson are literally supported in races. I am not suggesting that. I am not suggesting that at all. That's very different than what we're suggesting.
I think when Kamala became the nominee, he became more praiseworthy of Kamala than he was Biden, and he shifted more of his focus to shitting on Trump. But I don't think he ever explicitly endorsed Kamala Harris, and I don't know who he voted for.
He did not.
Anyone I know who did
endorse
he did
Kamala
not.
Harris?
Yes.
And didn't they? So they rose to the occasion, and Kyle didn't.
Yeah, but Josiah is the turning point at a different time, not during the race, but after the race.
After the race doesn't matter, bro.
Surely it matters. Surely it matters whether someone has a different perspective.
No, wait a minute. Does anything matter? Does anything matter now? The election's over. We can't go back and change the past 2024. Does anything matter between November 4th, 2024?
Things matter after
the
election.
Yo, but once the election happens,
Usurp. No, answer my dude.
No, I said you're right. You're right. Nothing
Does anything matter?
Question.
2024 election.
Nothing.
Okay, so that's unserious. You know things matter. It might matter less, but it still matters. If a Republican says, "I'm sorry, I voted for Trump," Now, obviously, we would like groan, like you voted for Trump 3 times, like. And by the way, this happened. Remember that there was a woman. They did an expose on a woman who was like, "I voted for."
Hot take, Usurp. Hot take. Wait a minute. Hot take. Here's your hot take. You ready for this?
Yes.
2016 was more important than 2024.
True.
Objectively.
Yeah, way more important.
Remind me what Kyle was saying in 2006.
No,
my point is about Kinzinger. My point's about Kinzinger. My point's about Kinzinger and Cheney. My point's about Kinzinger and Cheney. That's my point.
Wait, hang on. Wait, no. 2020, 2024, because at least before 2020 or 2016,
what about?
They at least had the excuse. They had the
what excuse?
As dumb as it may be, that it was all an act for the campaign.
No. Wait a minute.
So this is the office. He would rise to the occasion.
This is where this is.
Told each other. That is the lie that they told themselves, and that is a lie.
So they lied. That's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. We just, you know what?
And they were
Actually,
wrong,
I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to do the same thing, Usurp. I'm just going to copy and paste. Hang on. I'm just going to copy and paste your excuses for Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, and I'm just going to scratch.
I don't think this is the real debate because, Josiah's entire argument here hinges on the idea that as long as, whatever you've done in the past, as long as you're on the same page now, he can forgive that kind of a thing and not hold it against you. And, that would be a defensible position if it were true that Kyle and Crystal have actually like changed, their perspective, which I just reject that. I don't think that's true. It's not something that I can prove. And so it's just a waiting game, really, like we just have to wait for the opportunity to test that theory for Kyle and Crystal. We have to wait until maybe after next week's primary if Haley Stevens wins, which I don't think she will, but if she does win, then we'll see how he postures then. That's less to me important. Like the big test is 2 years from now when the Democratic nominee is locked in after the convention. What is their rhetoric gonna sound like then? I have my suspicions of how they will behave, but I can't prove it. Obviously, it's in the future.
It was a dumb excuse, but they had an excuse for doing what they did. So you can't hold it against them.
2020, they lost, and then they didn't step up in 2024. And Kyle Kulinski, he and George Stein.
But 2016 was more important than 2024. Usurp. I just made that point, and you can't refute it.
No.
The Supreme Court, Donald Trump got into power in the first place.
I just did refute it because they thought he was going to be a regular
How'd you refute it? How'd you refute it?
Because in their defense, they thought he was going to be a regular neocon.
No, what, 20? No, 20. What do you mean they thought he was going to be a regular neocon?
I think Kinzinger and Cheney had a good excuse. So this is the point. He's like
actually Kinzinger because he changed his mind.
He said that Kinzinger and Cheney have a good excuse, and Crystal and Kyle don't. That's what he said.
They have a more rational excuse. They have a more realistic excuse.
What was their rational excuse?
That guess what? He's on our team. I'm going to lie to myself and say, he's just being crazy on a campaign trail. But the moment he steps in the office,
based on what
itself, based on what? Based on fairy tale lands. But guess what? In 2024,
you're right. What a magnificent excuse.
But wait, isn't that their version of blue no matter who? Like, isn't that their version, right? So if they're conservative, I'm not like, obviously I think Trump was just a nightmare. But from their perspective in the inverse, are they not doing like red no matter who? It's the same principle. You don't think that either one of them had issues when they supported
Hutch.
him? But even after all that, they literally sacrificed their entire political careers. So Liz Cheney had presidential aspirations and willingly sacrificed that to go after Trump after the fact.
In the meantime,
all of that. Do you think Crystal and Kyle are more of an ally to the Democratic Party than Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney?
No.
Okay, then what are we talking about? Then even you understand that there's a difference here. You understand that like Kinzinger and Cheney
Hutch,
have more value.
Hutch, steel man my position. What do you think my position is by comparing these two?
If by two, do you mean like the TO?
That's not Pisco. That's not me. That's not me. Steel man my position.
What do you want me to steel man?
Why do you think I am comparing Crystal and Kyle to Adam and Liz?
You're trying to make the
what
case
am I getting at?
You're trying to make the case that somebody can be somebody could have been opposed to our like political goals in the past, but can have a change of heart or change their perspective and then be on the team. But I think like the point that I'm trying to make, and I think that Usurp was trying to make it at the same time, was that Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney earnestly like believe that Donald Trump is this existential threat, and they to them it was like a no-brainer calculation to support the Democrats. But that does not apply to Kyle. It definitely does not apply to Crystal.
My point is, you got half right. The reason I'm comparing them is because when it mattered, arguably even more than in 2024, 2016 was in many ways more consequential than 2020 or 2024 because of the Supreme Court, if nothing else. And putting Donald Trump in a position, it's easier to become president again once you've been president the first time. Blocking Trump from ever becoming president and killing that particular thing in his crib. You guys are really big on ending, dangerous movements before they get to power. So by your own logic, 2016 was more important than 2020 and 2024. Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger were active allies of Donald Trump. And then they supported Trump all the way up until January 6th.
I see.
So for 4 years, they used their power and influence to actively support.
I keep trying to pause the video to interject with my thoughts, but I mean, I remember this part of the conversation and I interject in 2 seconds. And so, I'm just going to repeat myself if I do that.
Fascist.
I understand.
Okay. I would argue that's infinitely more damage than anything Kyle and Crystal have done, but set that aside for.
Wait, can we get you to agree or disagree? Wait, Hutch, do you agree with that?
I could not disagree more. They were just as opposed to Hillary Clinton as Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney in 2016.
No. But Josiah's not just referencing the decision on who to endorse or who to support, but also their actual power and their usage of the power.
That's true. I did technically pre-watch this video. That's true.
And the apologia that they were
technically
doing
correct
while in Congress and members of the Republican Party.
Their votes.
And their votes
in Congress, and that matters.
They're sure, yes, but I'm saying beyond the power differential there.
I know it's inconvenient for you and you have no answer for it, but I'm going to hold it against you anyway. Yes, they did more damage in a time that it mattered the most. And eventually what they did is they had a change of heart and they became allies. And yes, I agree with you. Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney are in many ways better and more reliable allies than Kyle and Crystal, because when it comes to electing Democrats, they are more full-throatedly in defense of the Democratic Party.
But I've never
and they had to sacrifice a shit ton. They paid, if that makes sense.
But the reason they had to pay, the reason it was a sacrifice is because they dug themselves in a hole, which is Josiah's point.
Yes,
right.
But I've never taken the view that people can't be formerly, enemies and become allies.
Except for Crystal and Kyle.
And the reason that I was clobbering the reason that I was clobbering Usurp over the head with this is maybe you don't, Hutch, but Usurp does. Because Usurp going back to saying, well, what about, what Kyle said in 2020 and 2024 would be like me saying, or in 2020, Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, look at what they did in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, all the way up until the violent insurrection. Doesn't count. Or we can't trust them. We can't depend on them. Now, time did not vindicate that position. Time has proven that eventually Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney became reliable allies of the Democratic Party. So when I say that I am making room for Kyle and Crystal to continue to be allies of my project, which is to emphasize that the Democratic Party is better than the Republican Party and that Trump is worse than any Democrat, I'm going to continue to make room for that until they prove me wrong. And if they prove me wrong with this upcoming primary is a great example, Haley Stevens, then I will owe Stephen $20 and you will be right and I will be wrong. And that will be either the end of my professional relationship with Kyle Kulinski, or it will become much more adversarial.
Josiah will become a monk. He'll go retire to a hill and shave his head.
Yes.
Do that. It's just fucking.
So Usurp. Now, having explained that to you in more vivid detail, do you understand where I'm coming from? I don't need you to believe that Kyle and Crystal are going to be allies, or that I'm going to win my bet with Stephen, or that they're going to back Haley Stevens if she's the Democratic candidate in the primary. I'm saying, do you understand what my logic is?
Yes, of course.
Okay, perfect. There we go. We're good.
Yeah,
I
just don't agree. But yeah, I would make the same bet that Stephen made. I would bet the money.
Yeah, I don't care. That's fine. You make that bet. That's cool.
You're like, oh my God, you Josiah for having this opinion. It's just you're having a conversation. How do you get there? Now I know. Now at least I know. Exactly how you got there.
Yeah, you guys have a different assessment about what Kyle's likely to do, and that's an honest, good faith disagreement. I don't know why we have to do this thing oh, Josiah, you don't actually believe that, or Josiah, you're bad faith.
We're all having an argument, and it's the heat of the moment. Come on.
okay, but like, I just don't think that there's like the same circles that we run in to talk about these different content creators, these different influencers. Like at the end of the day, we will assess them based on what they say, agree with them when appropriate, disagree with them when appropriate. I don't think Josiah is holding back. If there's some like major negative criticism, I don't think that Josiah is holding back on like if someone's like in the Cenk Uyghur TYT examples, those are perfect illustrations of that he's willing to criticize as appropriate.
I think you should do that. I think you should listen to what they say, which is why I'm committed to putting together a 4-hour highlight reel after an extensive week-long audit of their content, and I will show you what they say.
And by the way, so am I. I watch these, what are these videos? Who's this guy that you like? Conduit. I watch the Conduit video. People will send me
Conduit mentioned.
To pretend that we're unwilling to dive in and like we're doing, this is now the second space where we've like, I'm sure, manipulated Josiah into. I honestly, we haven't manipulated Josiah. Like Josiah, he's an addict.
Josiah said he did this to himself.
Yeah, so we're willing to call them out as necessary, and by like definitely we're willing to criticize them as needed.
Have you ever had an adversarial debate with any of these lefties ever?
With any which lefties? Yeah, I've had adversarial debates with lefties, not particularly with Kyle Kulinski or Crystal Ball, but with lefties who call in, Prime Kai, Ogre Boy, Vadim.
Anybody with a platform, whatever you answer, the point I'm getting at is, I know the answer is no, because they're never going to host those. So when you say, I'll have an adversarial relationship with them, no, you won't.
Okay.
You never will. That's the point.
Okay. I mean, if you're saying they won't let me, then
Destiny comes in and just.
I mean, and tweets don't count, and Vadim doesn't count, and Ogre Boy doesn't count. Nothing counts. It only counts if it's scheduled specifically as a debate.
Nothing. Wait. Do you think that nothing counts is the same as saying only people that only have something to gain by using your platform because they're way smaller is the same thing as saying nothing counts? Is that?
Well, I'm asking what counts, and the only thing that counts.
No. Hold on. I asked you a clear question. Answer that yes or no. Is it the same to say that nothing counts is the exact same thing as only infinitesimally smaller creators?
Analytically, they're different by definition.
Okay, thank you. So when I say these people won't talk to you, what I mean is the Ryan Grimms and the Kyle Kulinskis and the Crystal Balls and the Sam Cedars are not going to have adversarial conversations with you, correct? Or can you give me an example of a single one you had in the past?
I haven't had those debates with them. I haven't. I don't know if they're willing. So the answer is I'm not. The answer is I'm not sure. The answer is I'm not sure. Wait, do you want my answer? Or do you not want my answer?
Well, you said you quote tweeted two of them and you didn't get a response.
Wait,
right?
I got an initial response from Ryan Grimm and then he stopped responding after I'm like, well, this is insufficient.
Okay, so that's a long way of saying yes.
Hang on a second. So I haven't requested a specific debate with Ryan Grimm on Fauci, but your question was, would they be willing to be adversarial? And my answer to that is, I don't know with me. I'm not sure.
Okay, right. I'm curious. I think the answer is no.
Okay.
You guys got hung up a lot on this Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney thing. Why? Nobody is trying to run either of these two people as Democrats. These are Republicans. And the reason why we say these guys are good people is because they took a huge political career risk to do what they felt principally was the right thing.
Whether we're willing to run them or not is tangential. The question is on allyship. The question is on whether they're in the tent or not. And so it's tangential to say, are they running or is there sacrifice of a given quantity? That's just tangential to the question of whether they're ally.
Is if you were the United States versus Germany, is Texas the same thing to you as the Soviet Union?
Analytically, they're different. No. I mean, yes, they're different.
Okay, so when you say allyship, why are you doing this weird game of conflating all allies as the same thing?
I'm literally doing the opposite. I'm trying to disentangle. So I'll respond to that. So
do you think, would you have the same standards for a never Trumper quote unquote ally as you would for somebody who is in your party?
What kind of standard are you talking about with respect to what?
I asked if you would have the same
with
standard.
what? I mean, yeah, different standards for different folks. I don't know what you're talking about. For different things.
So you have
different things.
Well, so why do you keep comparing Adam and Liz Cheney with?
I'll tell you why. So a criteria is given by someone, let's call it Usurp or Hutch, and they give a criteria for being in the tent or not being in the tent. Then we give someone and we apply the criteria. We apply the criteria. We apply the criteria. We apply the criteria that was given to us to some other person to test for consistency. And that's the answer to that question.
I'm going to shout at Hutch.
Yes or no, Hutch? I'm not playing your silly game, Soy Pill.
Hutch and Usurp, you guys are horrible. You guys said that those guys were in the Democratic Party tent. Did you guys really say
allies?
That?
Allies.
Pisco saying right
allies.
You leave me out of your petty.
Yes. They said they were allies. Yes, correct. Yes.
I said leave me out of that shit.
Hold on, Hutch and Usurp. Would you expect? Let's see if Josiah and Pisco can guess what they're going to answer. This. Hutch and Usurp. Would you guess that Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney would vote for a Democrat over a moderate Republican?
Nope.
No, but that's not the question. That's not the question. That's tangential. Hang on, that's tangential. Hang on, that's tangential.
I'm just curious.
That's
Did
tangential.
you guess that they were going to answer that way? Did you guess they were going to answer? That's not.
That is tangential. The question is on allyship.
On the word allyship.
So
No,
that's
what do you mean allyship?
so we're assessing one thing at a time.
Is Texas and the Soviet Union
No, they're
the same
not.
thing
No,
as
they're
US
not.
allies?
No, they're not. So the question. Okay.
Stop saying allyship.
So the question. So the question.
Never Trumpers.
So the question is only the question is whether or not people are in the tent, and it's a different question.
Noisy.
You're equivocating.
There's no equivocation.
What is
there's no equivocation. These terms there's no equivocation here. So an equivocation is using different definitions for terms. There's no equivocation here. You can't identify an equivocation, and
you're equivocating on the term tent because you're whatever it can mean, whichever you want it to mean. You're being
no, I'm not being intentionally vague. I'm the one calling.
Do you consider Adam and Liz people that you would consider Democrats?
Allies was the term we're using. Allies is the term we're using. Why are we changing the term?
What do we mean?
Who's being slippery with language?
What do you mean by ally?
That's my question. That's what I ask, and they get pissed when I ask, "What do you mean by ally?"
Strange that everybody here has an intuitive sense that there's a difference between an allied who is a never Trumper versus you.
That's by definition an equivocation, isn't it? You're using ally in different senses, yes or no? It is by definition an equivocation. You're saying ally is something different and you're comparing two different things, apples and oranges. That's an equivocation.
No, equivocation is when you're being intentionally vague or hazy, like when you say big tent, big
I'm asking, so you're complaining. I'm the one who's asking for clarification about what these people mean with these terms. That's been my whole cause this entire time. So I ask, what do you mean by ally? And Hutch says, what do you mean by what do you mean? Right? They're getting pissed that I'm asking clarifying questions and you outrageously accuse me of equivocation. It's crazy.
Because what they mean when they say, "Oh, I think that Adam is an ally," and you also say like, "Oh, well, of course, Jeffries is an ally." Do you think they mean the same thing when they say that?
I would hope they're not equivocating. That's why I'm trying to have non-equivocation.
I'm asking you, as a human being, gun to your head, when Hutch, if he says something like, "I think Adam Kinzinger is like an ally,"
the truth is I'm not sure.
When he says ally, does he mean
the truth is I'm not sure. I assume when I have these conversations. Wait. Let me finish my response. The truth is I'm not sure. My assumption when I'm having this conversation is that we're not equivocating, right? So when we ask about allyship, my assumption is that Hutch isn't equivocating. That's why I want one standard, one criteria. That's why I'm asking these questions.
You're not going to have the same standard.
So then we are equivocating. If we're using different terms that mean different things, that's equivocation.
No, it's like when somebody says a friend. Like, does a friend of the stream mean that they're going to be at your wedding? Like, what? Like a friend?
So that's what I'm trying to do is get clarity on language. When he asks whether Hasan is an ally or whether Hasan is in the tent, I need to know what he means.
Okay, then give us new words right now. If you were talking about Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, I consider these two people, I don't know, friends, allies, whatever. They were willing to stake their political reputations on standing against Trump. I think that's a really admirable thing.
I do too.
And I think it benefits us in the long run and it benefits America. But I wouldn't consider them the same thing as like elected leader Democrats. So what is the different term you would use for them than what you would use?
I'm not proposing the use of these terms. I'm responding to people who are asking me the question about whether given people such as Kyle or Crystal.
You don't like the same word. Hold on. But notice how I was able to understand immediately, and I could probably ask more questions, what Hutch and Usurp and anybody else.
What do they mean by ally?
As in, right now, there is a huge confrontation that we have with a foreboding force. We can call it fascism or Trumpism or MAGA or whatever. And these people seem to be standing on the side of basic.
Democratic Party at this point in time in the United States, things are so dire in the US that the Democratic Party right now are the vanguard for a pro-small L liberal, pro-democracy, anti-fascist. That's what the Democratic Party represents. Warts and all. Within this two-party system, that is what they represent in this moment as a response to to Trump and MAGA and how far he has dragged the conservative movement down in the last 10 years. And so if you understand this, or if you take that view, then you would have to, I think, necessarily view any kind of force that seeks to smear that movement, not criticize them, not do good faith analysis and criticism, but smear that party and then attempt to take it over from the inside like a cancer. Then I don't understand why you wouldn't regard those people as adversaries. but the thing is that they don't dress themselves up as adversaries as such. They dress themselves up as, well, you know, we're just these small beans progressives that want to give everybody health care. And I think a lot of people fall for that framing. But that's not what they are. That's not what they represent. That's not what they are in relation to the Democratic Party. They're not just some small beans progressive movement that's trying to give people health care. That's not what it is. They are dishonest with that framing, deliberately dishonest with that framing, because it works. You know what I mean? It's effective. Take a look at what's happening in the Democratic Party right now. Take a look at some of the coverage that we're seeing from the media. This guy Osted, he is driving me insane. This guy from Vox, I bookmarked something from, like, this shit. This is the product. This is the product. This is the product of all those years of, I'm just a small beans progressive person, you know?
We hear it every election night. The socialists are on the rise. And what does that mean for the leftist takeover of the Democratic Party? And to some extent, that's true. There have been big wins by progressives in Democratic primaries all across the country. But the subject of my new Substack is about how I think you should think about it a little differently. And actually, the story in the primaries since the 2024 election is, to me, that the moderates are collapsing and the establishment wing can't get itself together. I mean, think about the candidates they put up in these elections. Andrew Cuomo in New York City, Janet.
The generalizing, you know, like the completely like buying into the framing of like, oh, it's progressives versus the establishment. No, that's not what this is. That's not what that is such an outdated way of looking at things. I don't even know if it was ever relevant in the way that they think. Is this delusional or calculated? No, I think this guy is a useful idiot. I think this guy, this Osted guy, man, he's really pissing me off lately. Driving me bananas. That is the result of just years and years and years of the movement that I'm talking about, the arsonists, doing their propaganda, and it's been effective. And saying, you know, when you have like legacy media people that are like completely buying into it, just uncritically.
They seem to be people that recognize that they would put country before party, which you usually don't have to when it comes to voting Republican or Democrat. You're not supposed to be putting country before party here. All the parties should be for the country. But they recognize that at the moment, they have to align, at least temporarily, with the Democrats because the Republican Party represents such a great threat. But once that threat is gone, they're immediately back to the Republican side. They're not Democrats, they're Republicans.
So on that notion, Kinzinger is an ally in the same way that a Democrat's an ally. On that notion of allyship.
Oh my God.
On that notion of allyship.
If you take Kyle to be sincere, which I don't, and I don't think you have a good reason to.
Well, okay, no, but like,
yeah,
assuming
but
if that's all it means, then that's in line with what Josiah was saying.
But I would put Kyle and Crystal more in the.
Is because everybody understands that Adam Kinzinger is a Republican, but people like you guys keep obscuring that Kyle Kulinski is a Democrat. He's not a Democrat. People like you are going to keep Kyle over here where he's a lunatic. If Kyle Kulinski and Crystal Ball and Ryan Grimm and the majority report, if all of these people were to disappear from politics forever, do you know what the seat effect on Democrats would be?
Who knows? I don't know. You think positive?
It would be nothing.
Okay, so
I actually disagree with Destiny here. I think we would pick up seats, bro. I'm not even kidding. I can't tell you how many seats. Can't even prove it. I think it would net Democrats more seats in Congress.
There's no effects, right? So
yeah, it would benefit.
So then then why the consternation? Then why the consternation?
The only thing they're doing is hurting us. We're not. It's not like Kyle is out there turning independents or Kyle is out there convincing MAGA to join our party. They're only doing damage.
Okay, so now we're going to find a quote of either Josiah or I calling Kyle a Democrat. Never heard that happen. Josiah was very clear in the sense in which he's using ally, that Kyle on that vision, assuming he's sincere, is an ally on that view. But he never called him a Democrat. He never said treat them the same as you would treat Hakeem.
Kyle and Crystal wouldn't even call themselves Democrats.
Sure. You guys kept asking earlier, what would you differently? What would you do? Okay, so I just wrote a little bit. So like Josiah has a video saying Tucker, Pierce, go nuclear on Ben Shapiro. Would you ever have a video titled like this related to the Majority Report or Kyle Kulinski or Jimmy Dore, where they're going like nuclear on each other over disagreements on DSA stuff?
No, because my shit's towards answer.
God damn it, man.
Bill Maher. Would you ever make a video about that related to Crystal Ball giving an insanely raked over the coals interview to Slotkin or Matt Berenstein and these people abusing the of Mick Morrow? Would you ever title a video called, okay, Matt, Emma Vigilant?
If she said that she was open to voting for J.D. Vance, maybe.
You mean like Hassan and Vosh?
You mean like you?
You mean like Hassan and Vosh?
Yes, like Hassan and Vosh and you.
I publicly criticize.
Me, Pisco?
And you said that you were, it's unsure whether or not you vote for AOC.
I said over AOC, assuming a socialist takeover. They said over Gavin Newsom. Hold on. Do you
I'm
recognize
sorry.
the difference between
I'm
those two
sorry.
statements?
So when
Yes or
I
no?
asked that
Yes or
question,
no? You recognize the difference between those two statements? Yes or no?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but just an invented thing. I never asked whether or not you vote for AOC given socialist takeover. I asked whether you would vote for AOC or JD Vance.
Stephen, sorry, this is as much. No, the question to you was just as much of a no-brainer as it was to Hassan, and I publicly criticized Hassan when he gave his.
You guys don't even know what communism is. You guys don't see the threat at all. You don't care at all. You're totally.
AOC is not a communist.
Yes.
Taking shots.
It's not about AOC being a communist. It's about would she permit, like Mamdani has, as a backdoor, all the commies into the party. That's the.
I can't prove it, but my headcanon about AOC is she's having a bit of a political identity crisis. I can't prove it, She's very much heavily bought into, a gambler's analogy, like she's committed a lot of money into this pot, into this like progressive democratic socialist pot. But she's obviously very publicly even been at odds with, some of the more extreme parts of her base of support. And I just have to imagine, and she's also just demonstrated a maturation over time. She's matured over time. And she's taken more pragmatic positions over time. And so I think that necessarily puts her at odds with a decent chunk of her base of support. And so I would guess that she's having like a little bit of a political identity crisis, but she's still like very largely progressive, obviously. I mean, I don't think that's going to change, but would I guess that AOC is an actual like Marxist, like does like Marxist analysis and is a part of, like revolution versus reform debate on the revolution side? Probably not, but she can't alienate them too much, right? Like
issue.
Yes.
I would prefer an economy ran by JD Vance over like the Green New Deal that literally destroys 25% or whatever of all corporations and turns them over to worker-owned boards. That's insane. That the Green New Deal is an insane federal jobs guarantee. There's just so much insane shit in the Green New Deal. We just don't talk about it anymore because it never went anywhere. But now we just look at AOC as like the moderated candidate that's had to move away from like the far left. But it's such a meaningless question.
Would you back a JD Vance when he said that he wouldn't certify the results of an election that he'd lose?
Yeah, on liberalism grounds, hopefully.
What? Yeah, that's disqualifying to me. But so is being a communist.
Wait a minute. But so which of the two would you vote for if you had to choose between two disqualified candidates? You said that you would rather have an economy run by JD Vance.
Bro, at that point, I would probably take the Kulinski out and say, well, I don't know who I was supposed to. And I just wouldn't endorse anybody. If I have to vote between a communist and a fascist,
this is like when I was asked, would you rather vote for, forget about the Epstein stuff, but like Hassan Piker or Donald Trump? I would try to emigrate. I would do everything in my power to get the out of the country because just, pick your poison at that point. Hassan Piker, if he was given the presidency, that would be catastrophic. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine his foreign policy? Jesus Christ.
Hey, dude.
Well, AOC is not a communist. So again, the problem for you is
he would collapse our markets and, lesser of two evils between AOC and Vance. I don't look at AOC and Vance as like lesser of two evils, I would have no problem supporting AOC if she ran for president. But I take Stephen's point that it is alarming that she's helping to contribute to this current climate where we have these lunatics that are winning primaries against like already decently progressive Democrats. Like that. But what choice does she have, right? Like she's so bought into that movement. She's been more selective with her endorsements. And so I do appreciate at least that much. She hasn't endorsed like every kind of like crazy person, but I don't love seeing her when she's asked about Daria Lisa. I don't love some of the answers that she's given where it's like, they say that every time. They say there were these crazy communists every time. It's like, well, hang on a minute, bro. Hang on a minute, little bro. When it's true though, okay? Like you do get to say that this person has completely insane views that are a liability to the Democratic Party. When they're pressed on those views and then they double and triple down on it, it's like, You know, so that feels like a bit of sane washing to me, which is frustrating.
Is that the hypothetical post, Stephen? The hypothetical post to you was a no-brainer. It was easy. AOC, and every timeline in the multiverse. Period.
Oh my!
Just like to say the same thing.
He literally said, Destiny literally said, okay, like, yeah, of course, like if the choice was Vance or AOC tomorrow, he literally said, obviously he would go with AOC. And then he constructed like a hypothetical for 2 years down the line. You know, like if AOC is like significantly putting her thumb on the scale to help elect people that are actually going to hurt the Democratic Party, that, you know, like I would still vote for AOC over Vance, but I mean, like that would significantly diminish my view of her. That would make me regard her no longer as a like an ally in the same way that I view her now. You know, I do think she contributes value to the Democratic Party.
The same hypothetical, Stephen, the same hypothetical that was posed to Hassan, Newsom, or JD Vance, that was also a no-brainer. And I criticized Hassan when he said what he said. As a matter of fact, and when you gave your answer on AOC versus JD Vance, I bit.
Why though? What policies do you disagree with? From Daria Lisa? Chaviolet? What policies do I disagree? The list of policies that I agree on would be shorter than the list that I don't agree on.
My tongue. I'm not
Wait, hang on. Did I say that right? You know what I'm trying to say.
here to try to take swings at you and Hassan and everybody else just because you give a stupid answer.
You want to swing at anybody while they're all swinging at us. You just sit in the corner and do nothing and then watch them eat the party from the inside. That's the problem. That is the issue. It should be infinitely easier to say, would you vote for a moderate Dem over the
Should I be taking swings at you over your answer? Should I be taking swings at you over your answer, Stephen?
Maybe communism in 2 years. Like that.
He didn't give you a hard time. Zai didn't give you a hard time.
It wasn't communism versus JD Vance. It was AOC versus JD Vance. You gave a dumb answer. Should I and everybody else be like pointing our ire towards you? I bit my tongue. I bit my tongue. It's like, okay, I disagree with that. Move.
Where's the full clip? Hang on. Where's the full clip of that? I think people should watch that full clip, right? It's pretty obvious what Destiny was saying. You know?
Yeah, nice. What am I assuming the policy differences are between AOC and JD Vance? Because the stated policies verbally, Vance I'm sorry, he's given better policies and better answers than AOC.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry if that's offensive, but like, that's just true. We can debate on any of the economic policies you want. He sounds like he has a decent understanding of things. Now, I also happen to think that Vance is
That seems a bit broad.
fascist who's been brain fucked.
That seems a bit broad.
But he has.
Can we be honest?
What the assumptions I'm supposed to make? I can make a bunch of crazy assumptions about Vance that aren't even really that crazy based on all of the shit that I think is in his background. But then what, am I just supposed to assume that AOC is going to be a moderate left Dem, like a Gavin Newsom, or like a kind of far left Dem, like Gavin Newsom? Like, what the why would I give her so much charitability, especially when you guys have proven that you are completely and totally incompetent when it comes to talking about anything bad to the left, but give infinite lack of charitability to JD Vance?
I don't know how to respond. I mean, like,
I know you don't.
Yeah.
Okay. The comparisons between between Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and the rest of the Democrats, the big issue that I have is that when you guys talk about like, well, these other guys have realized they made a mistake. Can you think of a single political hit or sacrifice, a single unpopular thing that any of these lefties has said or done in service to the Democratic Party ever?
Unpopular with respect to the overall country or to their base?
To their audience, because that would require, you know, he's asking like, have they ever like sacrificed anything? Have they ever like broken away from like audience capture is what he's getting.
Their constituency, the voter constituency, the far lefties, I'm assuming in the case of lefties.
Why would them acknowledging that the Democratic Party is better than the
because you know I got one in the pocket, right? And you know I got one for AOC.
Who's their base?
Yeah. The left wing of the Democratic Party, correct?
The socialists and the communists. So have they ever taken a hit?
And you know they have. And you know
for what?
AOC voting against, drumroll, the Iron Dome, or voting president. She lost the endorsement of DSA.
Hold on, I'm not talking about AOC.
I mean, he says he's not talking about AOC, but also like the fact that AOC chose not to endorse some of these more high-profile DSA candidates. You know, it's like that was like breaking a bit from a big part of her base of support, right?
I'm talking about the media people. Your
Monkers, Hutch, I am seriously disappointed with your output. When we have rampant fascism and ongoing illegal wars, ICE in our communities, and you feel the biggest issue is a few DSA candidates. First of all, you. Where was this energy in 2024? Where was this energy in 2024 when I was making that case? And the people that I talk about were insisting that there was no difference between these people. Where was that energy when it actually mattered? You think you can do what after the fact? When the damage is already done and you want to guilt trip me? I'm not going to make that mistake again. You know, like I'm going to keep this issue for my part front and center, okay?
And crystal ball in terms of taking an unpopular position.
Or any of the left.
Like where the were you in these people's chats telling these people what the are you doing? What the are you doing when Donald Trump was on this ballot? What are you doing? Why are you depressing turnout by feeding into these insane smears? Were you doing that then? Where the were you then? You were organizing on the ground with the DSA door knocking and phone banking, stupid. Oh, so in other words, you let me just ask you, monkers, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? What is your broad goal here? What are you trying to do, buddy? What are you doing? You think you're doing the Democratic Party any favors by having DSA co-chairs go on Fox News and be like, yeah, bro, we want to, you know, let me just affirm every worst stereotype of the most insane lefty you could possibly imagine and just full-throatedly 10 toes down be like, yeah, bro, we want to do that shit. What do you think you're accomplishing?
Left-wing media people, any of like the lefties.
There's no equivalent to Kinzinger or Cheney. None.
Yeah, there's nothing close.
There's nothing at all. Nothing close. The's nothing at all.
I'm not sure of that. I'm not the lore master for all their positions.
I mean,
no. The answer is no. The answer is no. I can't think of something off the top of my head.
That he would drag his.
Let me audit your Twitter account. Are you on Twitter? Link your Twitter. Let me see what you were tweeting in 2024 when Donald Trump was on the ballot. Show me. Let me pull it up. Not on the stream. We will not brigade. I'm not going to do that. Let me look at your Twitter account. Let me see what you were tweeting in 2024 when all of this shit was on the ballot, okay? Well, you just tell me, what were you saying in 2024? Were you stressing the importance of voting for Kamala Harris in 2024? Be honest with me and Jesus Christ and chat. Were you stressing the importance of voting for Kamala Harris in 2024 and supporting the Democrats down ballot in 2024? No. I'm asking you, were you telling people, like, you said you were knocking on doors for DSA. I'm asking you, were you stressing the importance of voting for Kamala Harris? And beyond that, were you stressing the importance of not smearing Kamala Harris when she was running for president, not kneecapping her? What were you saying 2 years ago when this shit was on the ballot? And you want to lecture me because I criticized the left? Give me a break. Holy shit.
His balls over broken glass to vote for a centrist candidate over a MAGA Republican is probably not what.
The absolute nerve on these people, of these people to come in here. You were knocking on doors with DSA and begging people to vote for her. Where were DSA door knocking for Kamala Harris? I want proof of this. Okay, I want proof of this. Let me see this evidence for this.
The leftists want to hear the fact that he said that.
Hold on. Do you guys think they will support anybody in?
Also, you say you were door knocking, and your framing to people that you were door knocking was that she was the lesser evil. And you think that this is effective advocacy? That's a strong pitch. Let me tell you, that gets me fired up to vote for the Democrat. Listen, they're evil, but not as evil as Trump. Wow. What a pitch. Thank you so much for fighting for democracy.
No, you asked for a statement they gave that would rub their base wrong or whatever, and Josiah said the statement that they would, go and vote for Joe Manchin.
They'll understand that like things like AIPAC and Israel are non-negotiables. They understand that when he says that.
Is that contradicting what Josiah said? I thought you asked for an example, Josiah gave one.
No, because there's not a hit taken there. Nobody's like, wow, like you're right, bro. Like these people constantly equate Democrats and Republicans as essentially being the same thing.
So we're defining the scope of potential positions they could take to only be...
No. In fairness, some of them say that the Democratic Party is slightly less evil.
Contrary to their positions on Israel, I guess, And it seems like every time we go through this exercise, it comes down to that it turns into a merits discussion on their position on Israel-Palestine.
I don't believe you that you were out there door knocking with DSA for Kamala Harris. I simply don't believe you. What DSA chapter was door knocking for Kamala? I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Maybe you and a few of your DSA buddies, you did it on your own. I don't know what you did, but give me a break. Don't tell me that I agree with DSA on 80% of the things. Don't do that. First of all, I don't think that's true. First of all, on policy, I don't think it's 80%. Maybe 30 to 35%. Maybe. To the extent that they have like social democratic policy positions that I also support. Okay, that's fine. But don't play that game with me. Like the entire foundational ideology of DSA is rooted in the belief that capitalism and America are eminently evil. And that capitalism needs to end, and America as we know it needs to end. Like that America has been just the most uniquely evil country on the face of the planet. You want to upend the entire system. You are not a small L liberal. That is like the most important foundation for my politics. I am a liberal. I do believe in liberal values. I do value like individual liberty and constitutional rights and principles like the rule of law and the crucial role of like a free and fair press and open democratic processes. Like, I don't believe in like banning political parties, stuff like that. It's just the little things, really, like I think you should be able to, like criticize the government openly without fear that you're going to be thrown in prison. Okay. Hutch, capitalism is pretty bad based on an outcome. And America is an imperialist, evil country. We can be better if we do. Okay, well, there you go. That's what I'm saying. Yes. I don't believe what you believe. I believe America, like many things in life, bit of a mixed bag. We've done some pretty not great stuff, like, dousing Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia in, like landmines and napalm. That was pretty not great. We've supported some pretty despotic genocidal regimes like Suharto in Indonesia. That was pretty not great. I'll grant you that. We were a little imperialisty when it came to, like the Philippines at the turn of the century. Okay, I'll grant you that stuff. All right. Agent Orange, not great. Not proud of that one. Don't think that was very great. But also, like USAID, that seems pretty great. Holy shit. The value of that investment. My goodness. I think that program should probably still exist. And capitalism, it's like, bro, when I imagine life 100 years ago, my God, I count my lucky stars that I was born in 1983. Holy shit. Because that doesn't sound great 100 years ago. What was the average, standard of living for 95% of the world 100 years ago? And then compare that to today. I don't know. Listen, capitalism is not without its flaws. I think a vital role of government is to fill in those gaps and to, make capitalism a lot more gentle. Because unfettered capitalism is ruthless. Okay. Marx's critiques made sense at the time that he was alive. The stuff that he was witnessing was in just an inconceivably bleak existence. Or, like the people that were working in those factories when the Industrial Revolution started spinning its wheels. I mean, that was just 14-hour days and 7-day weeks. I just can't imagine that misery. But things have gotten a little bit better since then. It's not perfect. Far from it, but my God, things have gotten a lot better since then. Holy moly. The global poverty index over the last 100 years is crazy. Like a 90% reduction in extreme poverty. That doesn't mean that poverty is gone, but my God, the average standard of living for people in the 21st century, there's just no question globally, it is so much better than 100 years ago or 200 years. None of you would ever willingly go back 100 years and live in that time, given everything, every comfort and luxury and scientific advancement that we've benefited from in our lifetimes, none of you would go back. And why did all those things happen? You know, under what system did those things occur? It's not perfect. It's not without its flaws, but me, man, given the full span of human history, recorded history, and just like the desolate existence that human beings living in poverty, which was like, that was just the default state, like just extreme poverty, extreme hardship and unbearable conditions. That was just like life for like 90% of the world. I mean, my goodness. Most of our prosperity was publicly funded research. The only reason that you can stream is because we funded the internet through social programs, not capitalism. But when did I, bro, you are speaking my language. I love it. Are you kidding me? Yes. Get the government involved. Give the scientific grants. Do the research. Like, these are awesome things. Yes. You know, Project Lightspeed. Look at that shit. My God, we had a global pandemic that killed like how many people? 9 million people in the world. And these came up with a vaccine in a month. There were like 5 different vaccines that they developed in a month. And then they had to do, you know, testing for several months, but they had that shit. They had vaccines in less than a month. That is an awesome example of government, the private sector working with the public sector to fast track vaccinations that ended up sparing millions of lives. That's a great example. You're speaking my language.
But part of the reason why it sucks is because when people look at the Democrats, they don't know who the Democrats are, and nobody in the Democratic Party is able to look at the far lefty lunatics and say, that's not us. So these guys get to constantly dominate the messaging. They constantly get to have Fox News throwing up Hasan and all these lunatic weirdo who are happy to go on there and prance around because they know they're not hurting their lunatic socialist base. And then they can gerrymander us out of districts. They can fight us on every part of the media while the lefties are doing the exact same. And when any moderate left person is looking for any support whatsoever, they don't get it. They go on breaking points and they get destroyed by Crystal Ball. Neither of you say anything. They go on Matt Berenstein. McMurrow gets destroyed by Matt and Emma. Neither of you guys say anything. Every place in the alternative media that they go to, besides Hutch's channel or mine, I guess, they get mind fucked.
No, that's not true. I've interviewed Democratic Congress people and Democratic senators.
These guys aren't fighters. They won't stand.
We gave Mark Kelly a hand job. We gave a bunch of people hand jobs.
He's being hyperbolic, but I can understand the defensiveness.
Objectively wrong. I've interviewed Democratic Congress people and Democratic senators, and I don't break them over the coals. David Pakman does the same thing. Brian Tyler Cohen, you're just wrong.
Hey, Josiah, I looked up.
I'm sure there are some. Okay, maybe there are a couple channels on.
Monkers, do you know? Listen, I have a lot of problems with the movement that you seem to be a part of. Like many problems, as you all well know. One of my biggest problems, I like efficiency. I'm a big fan of efficiency. That's why I kind of warmed up to capitalism over time, because, you know, if you compare essentially planned economies with free market economies, I got to tell you, one of those has a way better track record than the other in terms of efficiently allocating resources. There's just no comparison there. And part of the reason why I'm so resentful of you guys in this movement is because you guys are, it is such a useless distraction, because you guys insist that you're in this fight to end like liberal democracy and capitalism. You might be right about the liberal democracy. Hopefully not. But you guys, you insist that you're still in this fight, and so we're bogged down by these conversations that have been irrelevant for 3 decades. This is not a serious conversation. This push to like end capitalism and like do like socialism, you know, at the state level, like actual, like, you know, Soviet style or Maoist style, like. You guys insist that you're still in this fight to do that, and you don't understand that fight is over. It's over. So it's just a waste of time. I would rather talk about, like, how do we forge enough consensus to pass social democratic policies to beef up our welfare state. Like, you know, the city-run bodegas in New York City are like a really great example of that. It's flashy. It makes headlines. Why the aren't you? Like, why wouldn't it be more efficient to just give people money? Wouldn't that be better? You know, what is with all these extra steps? Why is, city-run bodegas undercutting small businesses that make 2% profit margins by offering products at 30% below market value? Why is that more efficient or better than just giving people welfare, like giving people money? We have a program called SNAP. It works really well when it's not bogged down in bureaucracy and process, and the Republicans aren't trying to gut it at every turn. But it's, when you give people money to spend on food, it turns out they spend it on food. We have reduced so much hunger in this country because of these programs, because of these welfare programs. Why the are we doing this bodega thing? Why is that preferable? Like, why is that better policy? I don't understand. I mean, like, the reason I think that, like, the Mamdani and his people like it is because they're so convinced that, like, every business owner is like this, like, greedy, awful capitalist. And meanwhile, like, the median salary for a small bodega owner in New York City is between like $40,000 and $50,000 a year. These are not like the Monopoly man, going home and putting on their monocle and counting their money. And, like, these are people that are struggling to make a living in an expensive city. And he's going in there and, like, I just don't understand it. It's just, you're still fighting this war that is just, it's been over for decades, man. And you just don't accept it. And we talk a lot about acceptance on this stream. You don't accept that fight is done. Like that, the socialists lost that fight. Okay. You can do social democratic policies. You can expand the welfare state. You can do massive programs that give people like college education and healthcare and stuff. You are not going to end capitalism. Like that it's not going to happen. And it's just such a useless distraction, a waste of time. We're over here like arguing with you jokers about like the merits of free market economies versus centrally planned economies, when there's just, the jury's not out on that. Like, we just know that the centrally planned economies have been a disaster every time it's been tried at like significant scale. It's led to just unimaginable suffering and death. It's just the worst. Got a little stun lock there. Got a little ranty there.
The lib left.
We've done it. We've given handjobs to these politicians.
You're talking to someone.
That's fine, but you guys have nothing to say when the far left rake these people.
Says who? Okay, like you can find.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Wait, if I go through your channel, is there heavy criticism of you? No, actually, wait. Why am I even asking this? I watch you defend those dog shit interviews. You're crazy, bro. You slurp both of them up defending the horrible roast session that I think Crystal Ball gave to Slotkin, and I don't know if you covered the bear scheme.
So you're taking the view that if you are not outraged,
the Slotkin interview, I swear, man, what a Rorschach test that was. Oh my God. The first question that Crystal Ball asks Slotkin is, why'd you even come here? What'd you think was going to happen? Why'd you agree to this? Don't you know I'm going to f you up? And then at one point in the conversation, she goes, she did this both times, by the way. I remember she did this both times. She asked some variation of, how do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night? How is your conscience clear? Basically saying like, you understand that you're evil, right? You understand that you're pure evil, right? Like, that was the subtext. She did it in both interviews. That's not journalism. I mean, that's just like, let's just call it what it is, right? Like, she's like Sean Hannity. That's what drives me nuts. Is like people like Crystal Ball and Ryan Grimm present themselves like they're journalists. And it's like, hang on a second. You are Sean Hannity. You are Tucker Carlson. There is no difference between them and you besides ideology. But even that's getting a little blurry these days.
By the Crystal Ball interview of Alyssa Slotkin, you're like definitionally bad faith or something. But yeah, I'm sorry.
Did I say bad faith? Did I say that? Is there an echo here? Did I say bad faith?
Well, I guess I don't know what the conclusion is. That I'm unwilling to call it the left. Maybe I disagree with you.
You also have another one in here, Mockler, who does the same thing. Like, when he interviews Democratic senators and Congress people, it's a polite interview. He's not raking them over the coals. It's a massive platform. It's friendly.
Yes, but nobody will limit the far left people who attack those people. Like, it's nice that you guys are nice, but the far left never will be. And you guys give nice interviews to far left candidates. The far left will never.
And
give
liberals,
nice
and more liberal candidates. I mean, we gave nice interview to Mark Kelly.
Yes, but I'm saying you guys will be nice to the lunatic far left people, the far left people will never be nice. Do you understand that that one-way treadmill like only moves to rot the party, moves people further left?
Yeah. So I acknowledge that that is true, and I think that that's bad, and that they grade on a curve, and that they will never, I think, treat with respect the liberal candidate, and will use bombastic rhetoric, and it's bad. I just don't know how that's contradictory with our view. I mean, we are willing to criticize those creators. It just seems like it's not enough. That we're not doing it enough.
What happened to Massey when he showed skepticism of Donald Trump? What happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene? You see how it's not the same? Do you see how the right knows how to keep like their own in line, and they don't like host their own like cancerous?
Yeah. We don't have the power. We don't have the power to do what Trump does vis-a-vis Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Doesn't exist.
Yeah, because you're not even willing to exercise the smallest amount of it. You get bullied by, admittedly, a small faction of the party. Like legislatively, these guys are like, what, 4 seats maybe? I guess if you count all 4 justice Dems, and then whatever the 3 incoming DSA seats are. But like, it's not like they have it. They just have a lot of media power. But because nobody is willing to say anything further left, not only does it hurt our own party on the inside, it makes the Republicans attack.
Hutch criticized the left. I've seen Soypill say that he hates Hasan or something, and he's been critical, even though he doesn't agree with you guys on everything. In terms of your conclusions on socialists and left wingers or whatever, Josiah, I have seen him criticize far left people on his Twitter account. Maybe it's just a prescription that Josiah should be using his platform to make videos about it. And I heard that from, I forget who it was.
Somebody even brought up this tweet. This is like the nicest, gentlest tweet ever in terms of Josiah criticizing Hasan. He doesn't even name him. In terms of like criticizing Hasan, like the very worst Democrat is objectively better than any MAGA candidate. He could have said something like, I can't say because Newsom needs to earn my vote if he wants to apply leverage. If I watched the video, I think I did watch your video on Bill Maher, who I agree is a piece of shit. It was 1,000,000 times more brutal than Hasan, who's supposed to be on our team, right?
Maher's supposed to be on our team, not Hasan. Bill Maher is supposed to be on our team more than Hasan is.
This part of the conversation I found a bit irritating.
Okay, my brain is fried on that comment. I don't even know, but okay.
Wait, what do you mean you don't know? What do you mean you don't know, Stephen? Which of the two self-identifies as a Democrat? Which of the two self-identifies as a Democrat? Which of the two self-identifies as a Democrat?
I feel like Bill Maher is like,
Correct. Bill Maher. Bill Maher says he's a Democrat. Bill Maher says he votes for Democrats. Bill Maher is supposed to be on the team much more than Hasan. So by your own logic, I should be holding him to a high.
Bill Maher, really right up until recently, I think if he didn't identify as a Democrat, he has definitely been a partisan Democrat voter. I don't know if he's ever said that he supported a Republican on any ticket, but I could be wrong. I haven't watched Bill Maher in really quite some time.
Higher standard than Hasan Piker. And by the way,
so you're telling me that this ultra gentle tweet of like, oh, we should hold his hand and help him be making better decisions is about somebody who's adversarial to the party? Because it looked like it was phrased to like a fellow Democrat who's almost completely aligned with us, and he's just like a little bit off on some things.
No, it's to a massive content creator who I guess at times endorses or supports very specific Democratic candidates, but who uses his platform irresponsibly and gives a shitty answer to a no-brainer question. If you want to say that I don't want to pre-commit to a specific Democratic candidate because I'll forfeit all my leverage, that's one thing. That's kind of like where I was fine with the uncommitted movement during the Democratic primary.
No, what Josiah is saying is Bill Maher, on your own terms, identifies as a Democrat, and Hasan doesn't. And secondly, that Bill Maher said he's considering voting for a Republican, which isn't what Hasan said. Maybe that's explaining why one gets the one reaction versus the other. Those are just things that I don't know. I mean, this hall monitor behavior, in my opinion, is kind of cringe. It's a criticism, right? It's a criticism of Hasan.
Hall monitor behavior? What do you mean hall monitor behavior?
You're looking at his dick. You're looking to inspect like what his tweets are and the nation.
Hasan has never said he would come out and vote for a Republican, but I think we can reasonably deduct or infer from his rhetoric that I think he preferred that Donald Trump win in 2024. I'm not even kidding. I think that was his preference. And I think it's logical. Well, yeah, that makes sense. He even came out in his conversation with Mockler. I mean, Mockler Mockler asked him, rather, do you think it's better or worse for your socialist goals if a Republican wins the election? And Hasan, without hesitation, said, oh, there's no question. It's easier for socialists to make inroads when the Republicans win. So he knows. I mean, it's just, I think Hasan is a not like I was going to say he's like a closet accelerationist, but he's not even like really fully in the closet on being an accelerationist. You know, like he kind of like gives away the game pretty often with some of the stuff that he says. But certainly DSA are accelerationists, and like that entire movement as they've become like significantly more radical in the last like few years. Many of them don't even like hide it, you know, like Mike from PA coming out and saying like he straight up wanted Donald Trump to win that election, right?
Nature of the criticism, and you're basically being like virtue signal harder, bro. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Notice how all the lefties do this to their own and how all of MAGA does this? Why are we the only people that can't like show support for their party? You see the problem?
You think Josiah doesn't show support for his party?
Really?
What?
I don't support the party.
That's not what I said.
You said we don't expect people to show support for our party. Are you talking about me or are you talking about Hassan?
I'm talking about enforcing standards amongst people that are supposed to be Democrats. It seems like the right can do this, MAGA can do this, and the far left tankies absolutely do this. So why can't the center left do this? Why can't we ever enforce a standard anywhere?
I think I have a clear prescription now. The next time this happens,
I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that in 3 months I'll be salty on stream, okay? But I'll be happy if all these lefty people are legitimately super gung-ho.
They're not going to be gung-ho for Haley Stevens. We told you we're not predicting that. That's not the prediction. Wait, why do you say me? We never said that they're going to be gung-ho.
Are you okay then? Are you okay having a coalition inside the party that's only here to advocate for radical leftists to rot the party out, but they're never going to run anything against other
No, I'm not okay with people with that intent. I'm not okay with that. And by okay here, I mean I don't like it.
Okay, well.
But how do you deal with it?
Yeah, criticize them as needed. Criticize them as appropriate. Tell us what to do. What do we do?
I already listed. I said if there was infighting between like DSA people and Modero Dems, would anybody make a video on it? You guys, or at least Josiah said no, he wouldn't. If there was like a far lefty that gave a really take when Vosh or Hassan, as much as they're irrelevant or whatever, they're the two largest lefty streamers. When they say things like I wouldn't support Gavin Newsom over J.D. Vance.
I did a whole stream on that, and Josiah had a tweet about it.
Insane amount of anti-Semitism, but I understand that news base. Okay, who cares? And the fact that you guys think that Ossoff would be anywhere near the good boy list on either of these two people is insane. They will all dogpile the Jew dude if he gets anywhere near an actual big office.
Same with Shapiro.
But like, I just don't think that like the amount of criticism, like, well, in a live stream once, and I made a big.
Yeah, so we criticize. You acknowledge we criticize. You just think the criticism is insufficient. It should be more prominent. It should be louder, and it should be more vituperative.
Well, why do we criticize? What is the point of criticism?
There's many different purposes that one can have for criticism: to change opinions, to make content.
That's a broad question.
Push a change. I criticize a thing because I want that thing to change. If it's a small light tweet that isn't really even seen by the other person and there's no social pressure attached to it, there's no change there. It's just like a thing that was like dropping into the atmosphere. It means nothing.
I mean, there are multiple purposes to criticism. Another is to make a name for yourself, to get your audience to understand how you think, and to spread your opinions among other individuals who your audience is. It doesn't necessarily mean changing the specific position of whoever it is that you're interacting with. But no, I mean, like I think that I'm vocal when I disagree with lefties. I mean, I've had screaming matches with lefties. I've reviewed content of Hasan. I've reviewed the debate with Mockler, and I thought Mockler did a good job.
Okay, all right, listen, Hutch and Usurp, I love you too.
I don't agree on the Mockler front. I don't think that interview went well. I think Hasan got the better of that quote unquote debate / conversation.
Very much. Josiah, I still love you very much. Pisco, I love you like 70%. Okay. We guys.
All right, see you, buddy.
Hi, buddy.
I'm tired as well, boys. All right, we kind of went on a little bit in there. There you go, guys. We got through it. Whew, I bled for this. I suffered for this. I stayed up way past my bedtime. Went to bed way too late. Didn't give it as much sleep as I normally did. And you know what? I got up and I started this stream at 7:30 a.m. All right? And I did it for you. Completely altruistically. Absolutely zero incentive for my own self-benefit. I'm going to donate all revenue made from this stream to my checking account. None of it will go to me directly.